Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Christina and I am a Jesus-loving, homesteading, homeschooling mom of 3, and I'm here to talk to you about organization of your school supplies. If you feel like you're swimming in papers, I can help you. I've been doing My Father's World for 4 years and I thought I'd walk you through our binder to show you how we set that up. It's essentially how we manage all the pieces. I promise it's nothing flashy, it's inexpensive, and it totally works. You've got this. Measure twice, cut once, buy a nice binder, use it over and over. This binder my son has used for all 4 years of My Father's World, and in fact it's kind of fun because every year he makes a new picture to put in the front. He likes Art Hub for Kids, so this usually comes from that. So this was his 5th grade picture, 4th grade picture, 2nd grade picture, or no, I'm sorry, 3rd grade picture. I can count. And his 2nd grade he did stickers. So that's just fun. At the end of the year, I pull out each section and I mark it with a Post-it flag and I put it in a large envelope. I just pull everything out from the binder and I stick it in this envelope with each section, each tab marked with a Post-it note. Easy peasy. And then that way I have this in case anybody wants to review any of the work he's done throughout the year. I even save the tabs from previous years and reuse those. Actually not a huge shopper myself. I'm a pretty frugal person, which is why I like that I have been able to use this binder for 4 years. So if you want something durable, I'll leave a link down below. Post-it flags are my friends. You know, they are less expensive than these dividers. And so if it's just gonna be minimal use, I just use Post-it flags. And I reuse these tab dividers as much as possible. So inside the front pocket, this year we're doing My Father's World Room to Reformation. You can stick one of these on the outside if you'd like, but you know, my son wants his pictures and that's totally cool with me. It does have 2 of them because My Father's World does recommend that you have a binder for certain things and then another binder for your student notebook for history, but we don't do that. We put everything in this binder and we'll talk about why in just a little bit. But in this section of the binder, we put the timeline pieces. These ones we don't need because we've used them in the past. However, you can see where we have started to cut into them. My Father's World recommends cutting these out, but I find it easier just to leave them on the sheets and cut them out and color them as we go. Before the tabs, I just have some loose leaf notebook paper. It's not an entire ream, just 50 sheets or so will get you by for a while. Then following the paper, we have our tabs. I've got Bible, art, music, science, and history. In the Bible section, I have the memory verses that we'll be working on this year for My Father's World, but this is going to be the same for any year of My Father's World. There's always some memory verses. This year, for Rome to Reformation, we're doing the books of the New Testament, memorizing the order in which those go, and then there are certain verses. So here are some of those and the rest. And then the rest of the work in here in this Bible section are going to be for dictation and for copy work from the Bible. My Father's World would typically have a handwriting section next, but we do not use this notebook for handwriting. We use a composition notebook. In previous years, we've had a handwriting curriculum, so it's just not something I'm used to having in here. It's always been a standalone piece. So we do not have a handwriting section, and maybe that's why we don't need 2 separate binders for My Father's World. We can just use this one. In the past, we also had a tab for spelling. We had been using Spelling Power, but honestly, it was just really dry for our family. I do like that it emphasizes mastery, and I like that it's just 1 book per entire family. It was just too dry for us, so we cut that one out. So I do not have a tab for spelling either. If you are using Spelling Power, I do know there are some books that you can buy online that are like workbook style things so that you're not using notebook paper, that are tailored to their curriculum if that's something you want to use, but it's totally doable with notebook paper also. While the art curricula has varied throughout the years with My Father's World, one thing has stayed the same. Some projects can fit into a binder and some not. So if you really want to keep some of those 3D projects or some of those projects that are larger than a notebook, if you want to keep record of those, you may want to take a photo and slip them inside the art and music tab on this folder. Otherwise, you know, just don't worry about it. That's your choice. Something that we usually do is if there is something that will fit in here, I'll 3-hole punch it and put it in. Some art projects end up on the refrigerator and I forget to put them back in. You know, I mean, I'm kind of loosey-goosey on that. I think that they're meant to be enjoyed, so if we want to have them out and display them, that's wonderful. Also in music, sometimes we've had things like lyrics or sheet music, or even just reflective pieces where you're listening to something and you create a work based on that. Maybe something that you write or something that you have painted or drawn. So anything like that would just go in this art and music section. I would recommend, sorry, I got distracted. Going back to the art and music section, one thing that's kind of made me a little bit crazy is that construction paper is slightly larger than the standard 8.5 by 11. So if you know that you're going to be doing something on construction paper, you may want to cut it down to a size 8.5 by 11 if you want to be able to tuck it nicely into this binder. If not, it does fit into the back on the back pocket, okay? But I think it might be nice just to cut it down so that you can put it in there if you don't think it's going to be something that you're going to hang up on the refrigerator, but you never know, some pieces you fall in love with. Alright, moving on to the science section. Since the time we've been using My Father's World with adventures in U.S. history, to exploring countries and cultures, to creation to the Greeks, and now Rome to the Reformation, since we've been using it, the science curriculum has varied a bit, although I do think since beginning creation to the Greeks and Rome to the Reformation, I do believe it's going to be a little bit more consistent in terms of how it's presented and the author of the curriculum and everything like that. But in Adventures in U.S. History, there was a lot of nature study. There were studying the birds from each state. There was a little bit of like bouncing back and forth between different nonfiction books and doing activities in those. So there's always a place where you're going to record some information. So just whatever you're recording, whether it's labs and experiments or answers to questions or drawing a diagram or drawing a picture of something that you see, that can be left in your science section. We just started My Father's World this year. We've just started it this week actually, 2 days ago, so I do not have much in here yet. Going over to the history section, this is where we keep our student sheets. There are some student sheets that could probably float on over to the science section or to the Bible section or to the art section as you go through the curriculum. You know, it's your choice whether or not you want to move them. I typically just keep them all together in the history section because if they show up in the history section, they're used, or if they show up in the student sheets, they're typically related to the content specifically that we're talking about in history, so I just leave them in there. So this is an example of one of the student sheets. This is School in Ancient Rome. We had been discussing ancient Rome and how everybody did school, and so we kind of looked for certain things there. And we wrote a little bit about Romulus and Remus, so there's going to be a little bit of space on here for narration. So my son drew a picture and wrote a few sentences about those fellas. And then on this page in the student sheets, it was like a fill-in-the-blank activity with Roman numerals. So this is an example of the kind of information that would be in the history section, and we just leave it here. I do have an extra tab in the back just in case we decide to use it. We probably won't. Prior to putting the student sheets in the binder, I do sift through and look for anything that is on cardstock. There are typically in the My Father's World student sheets things that are printed on cardstock that are for special projects, and I do not want to accidentally hole punch those, so I just pull them out and I put them aside in the back of the binder. So easy peasy, simple, cheap. If there's any questions that you have, if there's anything I've forgotten, please leave a comment down below. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. And if you plan on doing any shopping for school, check out the links below. It helps me out too. All right, thank you. Appreciate you.